wanted to take a minute to kind of cover some of the questions we've asked our speakers for this summit and get a chance to answer them for ourselves as well. I know a lot of you guys are interested in our experiences for those of you that don't know us. So we're going to start this. And the first question is, Amber, please take a moment, a brief moment, and tell everybody your background as a businesswoman, entrepreneur, etc.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades, I would kind of say. It's hard to really kind of pinhole exactly where my niche is, if you will. I guess you could say I've spent a lot of my time in dentistry. I am a dental hygienist. I went to dental hygiene school over a decade ago. I practiced for maybe a year and was like, okay, this is not for me. But I loved dentistry, and I ended up pivoting to be able to not only drive sales and get within the sales. I think everybody who ends up getting into sales never has a plan of getting into sales. It's just kind of something that ends up happening, and then it's in your blood after that, and it kind of never leaves. I was in the fitness industry. I spent years in the fitness industry and had the opportunity to work for a company called Muscle Tech. Several people have heard of Muscle Tech, where I kind of started a lot of my sales journey. And from that point, I spent several years with that company and felt like now I could marry the two, right? I had the dentistry, I have the sales, and now hopefully maybe I could do it in sales in dentistry. And I knew medical sales was higher paying. It was a little bit more challenging, very consultative sale, and something I wanted to get my experience in. I knew it would help me grow my career. I ended up getting over into dental and sales, and I think it's been about 8 years now since I've been in that aspect. Everything from sales to managing sales reps to business development, lead generation. I'm now vice president of business development for a dental purchasing group, and so that's what I do as my primary corporate job. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, we always kind of have different areas we delve into, and the one that ends up feeding us a little bit more, we end up putting more of our attention to. And so, obviously I've had a lot of success in social media and working with brands. And so I've really started to establish a strong portfolio working with large companies like Cliff Bar and Puma and whatnot, and growing that aspect of my influence in the fitness side. But one thing, me and you just being best friends and talking all of these years, and every time we have conversations about, I'm like, that's fitness and all of that is something I love to do, and it's something we're going to share with you guys, tips and tricks. But what do we do for a living? A lot of the time we build $1 million businesses, and that's what we do. And so why don't we just share all the aspects of what we do to build these $1 million businesses, all the aspects of lead generation, the challenges. I think also being a woman in corporate leadership can be challenging in itself as well. I would say my journey has really kind of evolved to be able to balance multiple streams of income in my life for happiness, wellness, and overall well-being.
Yeah, 100%. And especially with you being a mom and a wife and travel and
yeah, I think, we can get caught up into, I've always been a competitive person. I think competition is huge. It's what keeps me motivated, right? Is always being the best, doing it better, doing something better, getting more money, driving more leads, right? And even if it's not for my own, side hustles that I have going, but it's for that corporate role that I play. I always find that being a woman, you have to prove yourself a little bit more, but I feel like competition is what drives us to continue to want more. There's no glass ceiling, right? Once we achieve something, it's always, okay, now we've achieved that and we want something more. And, I'm young, I'm 37 years old, and I still feel like there's still a lot more in my journey that I have to overcome and learn. But I have also learned a shit ton in the past 15 years doing what I have done. And I wouldn't take it back for anything, especially starting the sales journey.
yeah, 100%. And I think this is kind of where this whole AV Academy thing came about. You and I met in the fitness industry. On my end, I come from another country. I moved to the US when I was 12. Went into modeling, makeup artistry, started traveling with an international photographer, which was kind of an interesting thing. At the same time, started doing the fitness industry. as far as just the competitions and learning the industry and really immersing myself in it. And from there, it went into, okay, now I'm a personal trainer. At the same token, then all of a sudden Europa Sports came, right? So with Europa Sports, it was one of those life-changing experiences because I never considered myself being in sales, like you said. And then all of a sudden I was this marketing sales person, and it was just part of my being, and I loved it. Because I never feel like sales is really selling if A, you love what you're selling, and B, you make friendships and you help people. That's really what it is. But with Europa, from there, I got a chance to not just be on stage, but be off stage and judge competitions and have multiple territories. I can't even talk today. Multiple territories throughout the US. And then, kind of from there, once I hit that benchmark of I can't go any further, I thought to myself, okay, what can I go into now with my education and my sales and marketing experience? And an opportunity came for the medical industry. So then I got into medical sales, which was pretty awesome, and I probably would have stayed there. But I got a chance to move to Florida from Los Angeles, and that kind of put me in an interesting market. From there, it went into construction for the last 4 years, which I did not expect to be in. But again, taking your experiences and your education, it translates into different industries. So over the last 4 years, it started off as marketing director. Then it kind of worked itself into IT technology director, which you know me well enough to know I'm a total tech geek undercover. So that was quite interesting. And then from there, the last 3 years, I built a startup in construction, which granted we're technically kind of still pre-revenue and it's still being launched, but it was quite the experience learning how to deal with investors and angel investors and shareholders and that whole ecosystem. And so now during this COVID situation, you and I decided, hey, let's get out there, let's network with people, let's educate people on what we know. We definitely have the experience, we have the education, and just everything is all about relationships too and connecting with everybody. I just feel like we both have been with in so much, and I feel like this year it's kind of coming around 360 really, and we're able to put all the pieces to the puzzle together. And especially moving forward, like I just started studying for my Series 65. For people out there that don't know, that's like financial industry, you know. And it's only because a few weeks ago I was sitting at home and I'm like, what have I not learned yet? Like, where else can I go and what other industry can I poke into
And
to
it's going to be able to help you in other aspects of your other businesses too. And, two of my takeaways from what you just said too is, one thing, and if you're not in sales, this might not pertain to you, but it might change the way that you think about sales. And one thing is that it builds a network that you cannot get any other way. You simply cannot do it in any other way. So one thing that I found doing sales is building this network of people from each company or each business or each event that you've worked, and translating that network and keeping in touch with that network over years and years of time. And everybody has a journey, everybody has a story, and it goes into something different in an industry of something different. And so there's this web of different industries that you have this amazing group of connections in. And I think when you're in one industry, like for example, me, dentistry, you could be so focused on what that industry does and does best, but there's things that we could learn from the construction industry. There's things that we can learn from the medical industry. And I think all of that kind of helps you to marry a more balanced business in a sense. And also sales can convert to any industry, right? You just talked about being in medical and then you went to construction. It was like, hold on, what just happened in that story that I just lost you? And I think that, as long as you know how to build those relationships, you know how to negotiate, you know how to generate leads, you know how to have successful events, and then you can convert that to any single industry ever, right? And so I think that that's one of the huge golden nuggets when it comes, and this isn't necessarily sales, this is sales, marketing, business development. We talk about turn your fear of failure into profits. And so there's a three-legged chair, and I've talked to you about this. I love this analogy. I think that, with a three-legged chair, if you lose a leg, the whole thing's kind of not going to work, right? So, those three pillars are huge. And we talk about the pillars of profitability sometimes, but if you don't have marketing, then you don't have good sales, you don't have good business development. If you don't have business development, then you don't have good sales, and you don't have good marketing. And so it takes all three of those. And if you're in any one of those roles, or you're an entrepreneur of any sort, you have to make sure that you build those three pillars in order to be successful. And, having, I think, those little caveats in your portfolio, if you will, can just lead to bigger and better opportunities, right? Like you said, with your learning the whole venture capital and shareholders and kind of diving into that business, you learn so much, right? But how much more is that going to help you with your your app and your software you're building? How much more is that going to help you with AV Academy and all of that, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I always say this, your network is your net worth. And I think it's so important because you never know who you'll be able to connect where and at which point that's going to come back tenfold to you and then within your business. Because if you
Yeah,
help
yeah.
people, people will help you. So
Yeah. And one thing I want people to, I always want people to have takeaways from this summit. And I think a couple takeaways, like, okay, well, great. I need to build a network. I see the value in building a network, and I can continue to bring them into whatever industry that I'm in. What are some of the best ways that you would recommend building a network nowadays, or just starting from scratch? For me, I love digital. And so I would say a Facebook group. We have a Facebook group right now with AV Academy. We're just kicking it off. And so we're going to be doing a lot of lives in there. We hope you guys can join us with some of these lives. I think you'll get a lot of takeaways, but I think it's a great way to harbor people to come to a community, and they can be observers before they even necessarily give input. And so you can build their trust, and then they become part of your community. You control that community, and there's a lot of cool things that you can do within a Facebook group. Ves has tons of experience doing amazing live events and getting people to come to a live event. So what's one of your takeaways on starting to be able to have a successful live event if you've never done it for your company or business?
yeah, it's funny how that came about. I mean, I guess in a way, looking at it, in every role I've had to put on events, be it for doctors, be it for the fitness industry. But more recently within the construction, I didn't expect to do it throughout the whole state and bring in hundreds upon hundreds of people quarterly to network. I mean, that was really cool. So I definitely think events are important as far as networking goes. Now, granted, obviously, we're still kind of coming out of this whole COVID thing. And funny thing, I have an event coming up in a couple of weeks. That'll be the first one since February. But you can also take that whole experience and do it online too. I mean, obviously with the Zoom events, a lot of people are starting to learn how to do that. So I definitely think that there's 101 ways to utilize that out there. But live events, though, nothing beats face to face at the end of the day. And making
Mhm.
those things entertaining and not your typical shake hands and sit behind a booth type of event is so important. Like with all my events, and you've been to a couple of them. I mean, I've got cigar rollers there. I've got belly dancers happening. I've got people getting casted as mermaids. So the whole thing is, it's kind of like the idea of work hard, play harder. So you have to combine the entertainment, like we did a construction fashion show event. You have to combine the entertainment with the business aspect of it so that you can provide that atmosphere for people to want to talk and connect and not
Yeah.
feel weird, right?
Yeah, great takeaway. Great takeaway. Absolutely. I think, sometimes we're worried about what people are going to think by having these unique pieces in our event. But if people are going to take away time out of their day and they're going to actually go do something physically, they're going to drive there, they're going to spend their evening there, they're going to spend the gas, you want it to be a fun event. And I think that there's so many different ways that you can do that. So think outside the box for sure.
100%. And then you become memorable. Hey.
Yeah.
One of the things we want to cover here is also, this whole business summit has been about turning fear of failure into profit, and just kind of tackling fears, because a lot of people have been afraid. I've heard so much over the last 6, 7 months, and so have you. And I guess, what have been some of your fears throughout the years?
I don't, this year didn't bring any different fears to me. I think the one fear that really has driven me since day one is, I was a single mom. I had my daughter when I was 19 years old. So I was very young when I had her, and I had to figure out a way to take care of this baby by myself. And so I think that if we're really being vulnerable right here, I think that my fear of being broke, I know what it feels like to be broke. I was 19 years old trying to take care of a baby, working part-time jobs, making a minimum wage, right? So uh, I know what it feels like, and so I know where I never want to be, and the fear of never going back to that place is what has always continued to drive me. And I'm 37 years old now. My daughter's 18 years old, so she's not a baby anymore. She's grown, and that still is my fear. It still drives me. I really don't know why, but it's something that even when I think, even if it's not that way, like when I was younger or the other way, I also don't want to be 55 years old and not own anything and be broke and be living in an apartment. And, I want to retire early. I want to be happy. I want to go travel when I want to travel. I want to have continuous revenue coming into my home, even if I am not working. And if that's a commercial property or if that's a business that I have, I want to have these staples in place so that fear is immediately removed from me, right? And I think that I'm still on my journey, right? Obviously. So until I get to that point, I think I'll always have that fear, and that's my primary driver for sure. What about you?
Oh, I would definitely say, it's funny. I've been in the US 25 years. I would consider myself Americanized. And most people that meet me, they don't realize that English is not my first language, but that has always been my accent and speaking in front of people, even though I've always done it and I'm great at it. In the back of my head, I still have that fear of, oh my God, are people going to judge me when I can't pronounce a word? you know? And you'll see in some of these interviews, I kept saying entrepreneur just because, I mean, that's what it is to me. And it wasn't until probably after we recorded most of these interviews, one of my good friends, he said to me, it's entrepreneur, right? I'm like, screw it. People know what I'm saying. But so I would definitely say I still get self-conscious about that whole aspect of it, just, English being my second language and what are people gonna think. But then I look at it like, but wait a minute, I have freaking 2 MBAs. I've got 20 years of experience, and apparently language was never the issue. So just get past that. And I would definitely say another fear is probably, well, I guess in a way you would say fear of judgment. What would people think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
You have to just step away from that and be like, you know what? You like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I guarantee you I've got
Mhm.
something to say that's going to benefit you. And if you want to judge me, that's your problem. You don't have to watch me. So that's something I had to overcome. And I would definitely say the second one, and I used to hear this when I was probably 18, 19 years old from a mentor of mine. He used to tell me, he's like, you got to get past this fear of success. I'm like, I'm not afraid to be successful. I welcome success. He's like, no, you've got some mental blocks on that. And honestly, I would say, I've been up, I've been down. We've all had the ups and the downs, right? But I would definitely say this year I had to take a step back and truly kind of understand what that was. Um, and it was just having to change the mindset of what success is, what's wealth, my relationship with money, right? I used to always say I love to make the money, but I love spending it even more so. And now this year, I'm like, well, wait a minute. I need to really, truly understand the energy of money so that I can put myself in a position where I'm not just spending, spending, spending and making, and then it's gone, which I think a lot of us have trouble with that. So I would say those are definitely my two big ones.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I think that people need to identify and kind of dig that out, right? Like, what's your fear? What drives you? And I think that it's a motivation, right? You were telling me about the show Billions, and there
Oh,
was a story, or there was a line he said. God, I can't remember it. I think he's like, hate is, or he says, hate is one of the strongest, is one of my strongest motivators to success, right? And so he was talking about people that he'd done terrible things to him when he was young or whatever, that were just shitty people, and he'd always remember those, and he's hated those things, and that's why he comes back and tries to like rub it in their face because he's rich now, right? But that line was so like, oh man, it's so true, because there's times that I've been like so angry or something, and that's been such a driver, right? And so it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive thing, I think, to be your driver. It can be something that was negative that happened that can be your driver too. So I love hearing kind of people's fears and how they've utilized them as fuel, if you will.
100%. My whole thing is, tell me I can't do something, then watch me do it tenfold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
dare me, please. You know that. No, and by the way, whoever hasn't seen that show Billions, I mean, I binged that in a week. I know you guys have been binging it too. What a great show. Great
It
show.
is a great show.
Love
It
it.
is. Yeah.
All right. So let's define success. What does success mean to you?
This has changed a lot. I think in my lifetime. It used to be money, right? It was success to me was having a lot of money and never worrying about money and buying whatever I wanted and having the big beautiful home and the nice car, right? That's what it used to be. I think now, to me, it's definitely a more balance of all of the things. I think health and wellness is a big piece of success. I think if you cannot take care of your being, that helps you to do all of these things to make money, then you're missing a huge piece of success in life. So I think your health and your wellness and taking care of yourself and being is one huge piece of success. Being able to have the time and focus and schedule those things as if they were a business meeting, right? Those workouts and the healthy eating. Um, Two, of course, financial success is a piece of it. It's not everything now. If I'd have just that, some of the most richest people in the world are the most miserable people in the world. So money doesn't always buy you happiness. It can make your life a lot easier. I would rather be rich and miserable than poor and miserable, absolutely. And then I think also our surroundings. I am such a nature junkie. I love to go hiking. I have a billion plants surrounded in my house. But I think that our environment and what we surround ourselves by can help us be overall well balanced in life. And so success is kind of a little bit of everything to me. Family and making sure my family's healthy and taken care of, and I have time to spend with them. So those things are really what is a successful person to me, because I've met lots of successful people on every aspect, right? I've met those people that have a lot of money and that have the worst relationships ever. And then I've met those people that also have a lot of money and are the best, sweetest people in the world too, right? So to me, you have to have a little bit of a balance in all of those things in order to have success in life. And that's my idea of success. Someone else's might be totally different.
Right. 100%.
What
Yeah,
about you?
I would
Same?
definitely say, yeah, it's funny. I've thought a lot about this, especially in the last few months. And I would definitely say, as I went along in different industries and in different aspects of my businesses, each one I considered a success when I got to a certain level where I could measure. I'll set a goal, and if I get there, that was success. I mean, going back to the days of the fitness industry, it's like, oh, I want to be on stage. Well, that was success. Then what, right? Now, what's next? Well, I want to judge shows. How do I get there? Then you work your butt off and you get to a point, oh, wow, okay, now I'm a judge. Now, what's next, right? I want an 8-foot poster on Muscle Beach, Venice. May that happen. That's a success. But then you go, but then what, right? So then you go in another industry and you have those measurable. But it's funny because my mom used to always say, especially when I did the fitness stuff, she's like, well, how is that successful? You're not making millions of dollars off of it. I'm like, no, but how many people can say they have a poster at Muscle Beach, right? Like, it's one of those things. It's really relevant to what it is for you at that moment in time and those goals that you set, right?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. And I think that also it's challenging when you come to come from the fitness industry, you know, everybody watching this right now is going to see the fitness industry is what it is now.
Yeah.
And Instagram and there's Pinterest and there's all these other channels that has totally changed the fitness industry from when
Completely.
we were in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
It was more the underground, you know, hardcore bodybuilders. You know, everybody knew everybody, like literally everybody knew everybody. You know, everybody shot with the same top photographers.
Yeah.
It's become so just a totally different industry than what it was. And so I think that, you know, coming as a female perspective, I think as a male, it's viewed a little bit differently. But I think you have to earn your respect a lot harder and a lot more when you spent years as a successful bikini model, right? I've been in the magazines, I've been in the, and there's been times that I wanted to share like a success story, like, oh, here I was in the Hard Rock billboard in Vegas. This was pretty cool. Right. But then I felt like, oh, then it feels superficial. You know, maybe I shouldn't share that because it's superficial. And most people that I work with on the business side aren't going to respect that I was in a bikini on a billboard in Vegas.
Right.
And so kind of going, you know what? Who cares about what people think? That was a success to me. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to look at it. You don't have to like it. But to me, it was a pillar of my success. And it wasn't nothing about the way that I looked. It was nothing about the bikini. It was about the journey that it took to get that freaking billboard in Vegas, right? And so I think that, you know, not everybody's going to respect it. But I think you have to also earn a little bit more respect, which is a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I mean, going back, you and I have both been in I will say it, male dominant industries for the most part. And we both look a certain way. So, you know, we always had to earn that. You couldn't just look a certain way. You had to have the brain cells to go along with it. And I think that's why, you know, I mean, the fitness industry, you're 1,000% right. When I left Europe in what, 2014, 2015. I mean, right then is when I started seeing the changes. And now it's a completely different freaking ball game. I mean, back then now everybody's becoming a famous fitness model over Instagram photos. I'm like, really? Because like you said earlier, back then we had to actually go train with the big boys and work the Olympias and just earn it from the ground up and get on that stage. And yeah, I mean,
well, and the looks were different too. The look was a lot harder, a lot different then, right?
100%.
Now there's different divisions that, you know, you can diet for 4 weeks and go be on stage and not all of a sudden you're a fitness model. So to me, you know, back then, I mean, sometimes there was 16, 18, 20-week diets I would do. And then I would go right into another show and I'd still be into another 16-week diet, right? Yeah. So there were some times that I was even more shredded than I needed to be. I was too lean, right? It was a little bit more hardcore and the expectations were a little bit different than they are nowadays. But I think from a female perspective, I think you need to honor yourself and honor your successes, regardless of what other people are going to think of them.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like I was saying earlier, they changed. So now, obviously, in the last 5 years, my success view has been completely different. This year, completely changed again. You know, it's like, okay, well, I wanted to build this company. Could I do it? I've never built a startup from scratch before, but I got it done, right? So that was, to me, that was a success. Now, is it a multi-million-dollar company yet? No, it's still pre-revenue, but the fact that it's built and it was built from scratch, that's a big deal, right? Moving forward, that's why I was saying earlier, I think that if you don't set these goals, and both huge goals, right? Like my new goal is, you know, I want a $32 million house on the water here, and I want my yacht in the back, and I want my Bugatti inside in my living room, right? So now the older I get, right, exactly.
Bugatti.
My purple black Bugatti. But the thing is, if you don't set these goals, the big ones, the really, really big ones, and then in between the smaller ones, then you can't really measure success, right? Because once you hit certain things and you don't have anywhere else to look forward to, I think people become stagnant. So I'm always mindful now. My whole thing is, I feel like I'll be a complete success now if I pass my Series 65, you know? And that has nothing to do with earning money. I just want to pass the darn thing, so I know what I'm talking about, right? So, and of course, as far as money goes, to me, now learning how to manage my money and seeing my portfolios and my investments grow, I never used to invest. I never used to even do a 401k. My mentality was, if I die tomorrow, who cares, right? I want to use my money now. But now I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 37, I'm divorced, it is what it is, life happens, you know, maybe I should think a little bit about how I want to position myself in the next few years. So again, going back to that, yeah, it definitely changes.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think that that's awesome. I love that. That
Life,
was such a good little piece there.
life, right? But a big part of this, and I want to cover this when we've asked everybody we've interviewed, routines. I think that I think it's important to have that, and part of our pillars that you and I have built into this is the mind body wellness aspect of it. So let's focus on the routine. Like, what's your morning routine like?
Yeah, so this is something I really had to actually establish and start to improve. One thing that I'm definitely not good at is a morning routine. But when I had a morning routine, when I was competing, which is another caveat that came from my fitness days, was the importance of a morning routine. I had to do a morning routine because I had to do my fasting cardio. So I was up at 5 a.m. taking my supplements, doing the thing I needed to get my fasting cardio. And, it was such a process and stringent, and I was never stringent, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that. But now I'm starting to really, Mindy Harley, you'll see she's one of our interviewees on here. She's really been my inspiration behind getting my morning routine started. She has a wonderful morning routine, and it's changed her a lot. She loves it. And I know that it could do that to me as well. So I'm taking it piece by piece at a time. One thing for me is she's like, where do you like to go? Where do you feel peaceful? I have a billion plants in my house. I'm kind of addicted to plants. I'm a little plant weirdo. So if anybody here is watching plants, hey, come, let's talk about plants. So I have about 150 plants, and I have a little kind of jungle corner in my house. And
She doesn't buy shoes, she buys plants. I love it.
I know I do rare tropicals, and I'm all about it. So I'd love to go over there. I feel like it's my little oasis, clean oxygen from all these gorgeous plants. It's peaceful, it's quiet. I got my humidifier. There's something about that area that's kind of like my little oasis. And so I've started to find that, okay, in the morning, that's the first area that I'm going to go. I'm going to not check my email. I'm going to stop checking my email first thing in the morning, because I found that causes anxiety, but also it reminds me of all the billion things I have to do, and it rushes me to get to those billion things immediately. So I have stopped checking my email first thing in the morning. Social media doesn't do that so much to me. So I will maybe browse my social media before I go to bed, but not too much. I go down there. I always have my coffee. I've been trying to actually hydrate with my coffee. So I make sure I drink a whole tall glass of water with lemon and have my coffee and start with my plants. So that's so far my morning routine. The next piece of that is going to be starting my fasting cardio directly after. I work out every day, but I usually do in the afternoon. More of an afternoon person. So that's my next piece of integrating that into my morning routine. I hope as I continue to improve it, it gets better and better, and it changes the outcome of everything that I do on a daily basis, and I know it will.
I love that. I love that. And it keeps your mind focused after that. I think you'll really enjoy getting back in the gym early. I mean, plus getting it done is so nice, because then you can have your whole day. I've done some interesting things this year, and I've always been told to journal. And it wasn't until last year, when I got hit by the car, as you remember, that I started kind of getting more and more in depth with meditation, journaling, chakra healing, and all that. And I kind of almost am glad for the whole Corona thing that happened, because it did allow me that time in the mornings to be able to wake up first thing, be grateful, write in my journal, have my 20 minutes of, be it a YouTube video or a book, something inspirational. And I'm huge on Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi. I know you're big on him. Ed Milet, love him. Just something inspirational that fits. And it's so funny now, I'll turn it on, and you know how they recommend the videos, it's always recommended something that was on my mind either the day before or the morning I woke up, right? So it's kind of nice. So I do that, and then I obviously coffee. It's a must.
Gotta have our coffee.
But
Which
now
which
you
I would
can't.
actually like to eventually kind of wean that out. Just do some more kind of like fasts, coffee fasts, if you will, where I'm not like I'm fasting on everything else, just water, but I'm skipping the coffee piece, But we'll get there piece by piece at a
Would
time.
love to, but I just love coffee. I can't help it. I love the taste. So now I journal. That's like a big thing for me now. And now
I
I'm
I
journaling
think
like
journaling is something that's super cool to have to look back on too, because you don't remember all the pieces in your journey. So I think it's awesome. It's something that I've been trying to do. I'm terrible at. I'm so digital that I'm like really like
it's
I mean, I take notes and stuff like that, but I find it challenging for me to do
it
journaling.
was no, it really was hard, but it was one of those things, especially because for me, I'm like you too. I'd rather type than write. But then it was one of those things where I just started with the gratitude portion of it first because otherwise I go writer's block. And then just now I keep my journal by my bed because like this morning I woke up at 1:11 this morning. 11:11, right? The whole 11:11 thing, the three numbers. And then I went back to sleep and got up again at about 5:36. And the first thing I remember out of my dream was there was cards in my dream that said 444. And not to get too much into the spiritual thing, but I looked it up. So I journaled that this morning when I got up. Oh, there was 444. So I looked it up, and that had to do with your spiritual guides and your angels basically, and talking about you are on the right path, like we got your back, just you got to push a little harder, right? So like things like that, now my brain is becoming more and more aware. Sitting in meditation, I've gotten up to an hour. I can't believe it. Most days I don't have the time, but I try to make the
Yeah,
time.
I did start the Calm app. So I have been doing my meditations. I have a whole series that you can do, like the 30-day meditations. So that is something that I've been integrating, but I usually do that in the evening time to wind down my brain, to
Right.
shut it off. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's a big one too for me. In the evening, I either do the brain music or I do the meditation routines, and I just kind of let it play for 30 minutes, and I end up passing out. But yeah, I mean that's been a big portion of it, and then of course go hit the gym, and then just get to your work. Sadly, not every day I end up in the gym early morning, but depending on how much work I have that day. But then, if nothing else, you hit it in the evening, which is actually kind of nice too. I used to only train in the evening just because it was more of a relaxing thing. So, yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to re-interview each other on the morning routines in a couple months and see if mine's improved more.
I
Since
know.
it's actually one of my goals, it's on my goal list.
I love.
We gotta set these goals, gotta check them off our list, right? So I hope everybody that's joining the summit is setting those goals and checking them off of their list. And hopefully, if we're not even inspiring you to take more action, that somebody that we have interviewed does, because there's a lot of great people we have on the summit.
Yeah, 100%. On that note, we will wrap it up, and we will see you guys in the Facebook groups.
So excited. Yes, please come join us on the Facebook group. We are going to really have so much fun in there. There's going to be a lot of exclusive content. There's a lot of really one-off, one-topic conversations that we're going to be having. We're going to be interviewing some of the interviewees. We're going to have some free resources. So we would love for you to come join us in our community. I think it's going to be an awesome spot for you.
Definitely, and share your opinion. Let us know what you want to see, what you don't want to see. Always give feedback.
Keep it real. We keep it real, so we want you all to keep it real. When it comes to all levels of business, we are here to help you drive that all success and all of that. But even if we don't have the solutions, we will find somebody that has the solutions because we've built the networks. And so we look forward to learning from you and you learning from us.
Exactly, 100%. On that note, thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.